everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Sophie and welcome back to this episode of Food for Thought. So I have my computer right here again and we're actually going to start right off with a blog post by the Thought Catalog, which is actually a new blog I subscribe to, and it's called "This is Your Evergreen Reminder That Slowing Down is Not Falling Behind." So what is this all about? Well, the main takeaway is that you're not kind of straying from the path if you're just slowing down in life and just trying to take it easier and reflect on things, because we all have this kind of idea that we have one goal in mind and we think we know how to get there and that's the path to get there just because we think it is. But what this blog basically says is that instead of just always being focused on following that path, actually slowing down gives us the opportunity to find new paths. And often finding these new paths actually opens up a lot of new opportunities. So there's kind of this metaphor in here, which is a tree metaphor. And this metaphor, I actually use it quite a bit. But in this blog post, the way they think about it is basically that a tree has many branches, right? It's not just one trunk that goes up and that's it. No, it branches out into many different directions. And you can kind of think about that in terms of kind of that main path that we want to follow, but then all of these other paths that kind of go off of it, which are these unique opportunities that we can't really predict beforehand. And a tree often stops growing. It stops growing tall or growing wide and actually starts to blossom. And it's kind of the same when we stop and we take it easier and we start to reflect. We can also stop and actually, when you look at a tree, the thing that you think is the most beautiful, or the thing that you think gives that tree the most value, is actually the flowers and is the blossom. And again, this is kind of similar to when we take it easier, we stop and we start to reflect. Often that leads to opportunities that will then increase the value of what it is that we were doing, and all of these unique opportunities that kind of actually make the whole experience worth so much more than if we would have just followed that one path that we had set out to follow in the first place. And there's also a really great quote in this blog post actually, and I'll read that to you now. So, we are far more defined by the way we make others feel than the way we think they feel about us. And I really think that this is a great quote, because not many people actually care about your achievements or how you got there, let alone how long it took you to get there. But we ourselves, we always kind of feel rushed to get to these achievements. But in reality, no one really cares. The only person that really cares that much about yourself is yourself. And that's something that we kind of need to realize. And once we realize that, we also come out of this constant necessity to rush and to put this pressure onto ourselves and enable ourselves to stop and to reflect and to find these new unique paths. So people care much more about how you actually treat them and not your own achievements. So rather than focusing on the big picture and your goals in life, focus on those day-to-day interactions that you have with people that might actually lead to a ton of these awesome opportunities that you might not have thought would ever occur to you. And again, as always, links to all of these things I'm talking about today are going to be in the description below in case you guys want to go and check them out. So this next one is pretty short and sweet. It's actually an Instagram post that I saw by an account called Helen Stepchuk. I think I'm pronouncing that right, I'm not sure, I'm sorry, but the link's right here down below. And basically what the Instagram post was, it was a picture of just notes saying, why did they do it? A better question, what are you going to do about it? And I mean, I know that this is something that is pretty common. We often think about, like, we should stop worrying about others and focus more on what we can do in situations. But I feel like rather than looking at it at that top kind of surface level, you can kind of go deeper and you can start to think about how if you always worry about the reasons other people do something, you're kind of being more passive. You're not really living in the moment. You're trying to think about the past and how it might impact the future, and you're trying to think about what if scenarios and all of these things. But if you stop and you focus and you try and think about what you can actually do, that's living in the moment, and that's thinking about what actions you can take now in order to actually impact that situation that you're in or that you're witnessing. So the key takeaway here kind of for me was that you shouldn't live passively through other people's thoughts or your own thoughts and trying to figure out other people and their reasons, but to just live actively through your own actions and in the moment. Okay, and now the last piece of content for today is actually quite unique. I've never talked about anything similar to this before, and it's an article on NPR titled "How Inuit Parents Teach Kids to Control Their Anger." And the reason why I'm including this article is because a lot of the kind of parenting that I'm used to, not necessarily from my own parents, but just from like Western culture, it emphasizes a lot of kind of parents correcting children's behaviors, often using like harsh tones of voice, anger, or something like that. And what this article is really about is it kind of describes this unique situation that a researcher found herself in while she was living with an Inuit community. And she said that she actually witnessed a situation where a mother told her child to actually hit her with a rock. And she was almost kind of daring the child to hit her with a rock, and then the child did it, and she just said ow, and she kind of expressed her pain. And then the article went into explaining how in Inuit culture it's very common to not use harsh voices or anger towards your children, but and for that reason, anger, when someone expresses anger, it's actually viewed as being very childish. And Inuit parents rely a lot on storytelling for disciplining. So kind of their philosophy is that you can only teach kids anger management by actually managing your own anger. And I feel like that's something that isn't that common, at least in like Western parenting or Western culture, that kind of aspect of relying on stories more than kind of authority or tone of voice and anger for parenting. And I just found it to be quite an interesting kind of view of the whole concept, and thought I'd just share that with you and throw it in here. Yeah, and another main reason why I actually wanted to include it in this video is because a big part of the article also emphasized how colonization and kind of globalization is forcing these communities to almost move away from these practices, and is kind of having a large impact on parenting within the communities. And I just found that very interesting and something to definitely reflect upon and just think about. Yeah, so that was it for today's video. I hope you guys like today's content. Definitely a lot of interesting stuff, at least in my opinion. If you guys have any thoughts or comments that you want to share on these things, leave them down below and I'd be happy to read them, and we can just start discussions with each other. That would be awesome. So yeah, if you guys like this video, leave a like down below, and if you think that it could be interesting to anyone that you know, then please go ahead and hit that share button. Don't forget to subscribe if you're not subscribed already, and hit that notification bell so that you know when the next video comes out. And I think that is all that I meant to say. So yeah, take care, and I'll see you soon.